Amid the roar of engines over the skies of Europe in 1940, amid the smoke of bombs and the red glow of burning cities, Italy stepped into a war it believed would bring glory, but which ultimately became a nightmare that toppled an entire regime. 2 decades earlier, Italy was still a young nation, lagging behind the other industrial powers. After the First World War, the country was exhausted by debt, unemployment, and unfulfilled promises. Out of this chaos appeared one man, Benito Mussolini, a former journalist, former socialist, and founder of the Italian Fascist Party. He called himself Il Duce, the leader. From 1922 onward, Mussolini took power, gradually abolishing all opposition and constructing a police state where slogans, banners, and dazzling parades hid the poverty and weakness beneath. He told the people that Italy would rise again, that they would revive the glory of the ancient Roman Empire, and millions believed him. Public squares filled with black flags, columns of soldiers marched past the Colosseum, and speeches thundered like storms. Mussolini promised that the 20th century would be the century of the Italians. But behind those striking slogans lay a fragile industrial base, an unprepared army, and a nation not yet ready for modern war. Mussolini's first ambition was Africa. In October 1935, Italy invaded Ethiopia, one of the last independent nations in Africa. Hundreds of thousands of Italian troops crossed the desert with tanks, artillery, and even chemical weapons. After 2 years, Ethiopia fell. Mussolini proclaimed that Italy now had a new empire, and millions cheered. But it was an easy victory against a weak opponent, and it planted the illusion that the Italian army could recreate the triumphs of ancient Rome. Then came the Spanish Civil War in 1936. Mussolini sent 70,000 troops, thousands of aircraft, tanks, and guns to support General Franco's fascist forces. Over 3 bloody years, Italy spent a fortune, equal to its entire defense budget, yet victory in Madrid convinced Mussolini that Italy was ready to stand as a military power alongside Nazi Germany. In 1939, Italy invaded Albania. The war lasted only 5 days. The Albanian king fled. Once again, Mussolini stood on the balcony of the Quirinale Palace, waving to a sea of black flags. He believed that Rome had returned. On May 22, 1939, Italy and Germany signed the Pact of Steel. In theory, it was a vow of unity between 2 dictatorships. In reality, Mussolini had no idea that Hitler was secretly preparing to invade Poland. When war broke out in September 1939, Italy was completely unprepared. Mussolini even wrote to Hitler, "We cannot be ready for war before 1943." But when Germany crushed Poland and then attacked the West, Mussolini feared being left behind. He did not want Italy to be merely a spectator while Europe was being reshaped by blood and fire. In June 1940, as German forces were about to conquer France, Mussolini decided to join the banquet. He declared war on France and Britain. Italian troops crossed the Alps. Only weeks later, France surrendered to Germany. Mussolini appeared beside Hitler at the campaign railway carriage where the armistice was signed. But Italy's share of the victory was only a narrow strip of borderland. It was the beginning of a 3-year tragedy. Throughout the summer of 1940, Italy expanded its campaigns everywhere. In East Africa, they seized British Somaliland. In North Africa, Italian forces attacked Egypt, then under British control. In the Mediterranean, the Italian Navy boasted it would dominate Mare Nostrum, RC. But within months, everything began to fall apart. In October 1940, Mussolini sought to prove he was not inferior to Hitler. He ordered an invasion of Greece, a small, poor, and seemingly weak country, but it turned into disaster. Italian troops were unprepared for winter warfare. Lacking warm clothing, ammunition, and vehicles, mountain roads turned to mud, tanks were stuck, and blizzards swept the front. The Greeks, though outnumbered, fought with fierce determination. Within weeks, instead of advancing into Greece, the Italians were pushed back into Albania. Thousands were killed or wounded, and Mussolini's dream of a Balkan Empire dissolved in snow and mud. Meanwhile, in North Africa, the situation was catastrophic. In December 1940, with only 36,000 men, the British launched Operation Compass against more than 150,000 Italian troops. The result: 130,000 Italians captured in just weeks. Entire bases in Egypt were lost. A campaign meant to expand the empire collapsed completely. At sea, the pride of Italy, the Regia Marina, also suffered repeated defeats. In the battles of Taranto and Cape Matapan, Italian warships were sunk and their forces proved unable to coordinate between navy and air force. In East Africa, British forces marched into Addis Ababa, capturing the Ethiopian capital, and destroyed all remaining Italian forces there. By mid-1941, Mussolini's African Empire vanished, less than a year after the war began. In June 1941, Hitler launched Operation Barbarossa, the invasion of the Soviet Union. Mussolini, afraid of appearing weak, sent 300,000 Italian troops to the Eastern Front. They arrived without proper winter clothing, anti-tank weapons, or vehicles. During the brutal winter of 1942-43, tens of thousands died near Stalingrad and along the Don River, frozen, surrounded, or captured by the Red Army. Few ever returned home. Yet in North Africa, the situation briefly improved, with the arrival of a brilliant German general, Erwin Rommel. Under him, Italian troops, fighting alongside the Afrika Korps, achieved a major victory at Gazala in May 1942, capturing or destroying 50,000 Allied soldiers at a cost of only about 3,000 casualties. Churchill later admitted, "It was one of the heaviest blows I ever received." But that glory was short-lived. Only months later, at El Alamein, the Allies counterattacked ferociously. German-Italian forces were defeated, forced to retreat to Tunisia, and in May 1943, all Axis forces in North Africa surrendered. 275,000 German and Italian soldiers were captured. From that moment, war came to Italy's doorstep. July 1943. The Allies invaded Sicily, the soft underbelly of Europe. As Churchill called it, within a month, Italian defenses collapsed, soldiers deserted, cities lay in ruins from bombing, and public faith in Mussolini evaporated. On July 25, the Fascist Grand Council voted to remove Mussolini. King Victor Emmanuel III ordered his arrest, ending 21 years of dictatorship. A new government under Marshal Pietro Badoglio took power, and within weeks, Italy secretly agreed to an armistice with the Allies. In September 1943, Italy officially switched sides. But the country did not find peace. As soon as Italy surrendered, German forces occupied the entire north, rescued Mussolini, and installed him as head of the puppet Salo Republic. A civil war erupted. Italians fought Italians, resistance fighters battled fascists, Germans held the north in brutal occupation until the war's final days. Looking back at the war, the question remains: why was Italy so weak? The answer lies not only on the battlefield, but within the nation's very structure. When the war began, Italy was utterly unprepared. Its industrial base was tiny, only a fraction of Germany's or Britain's. About 30% of the population worked in industry. Compared to Germany's 42%, productivity was low, technology outdated, and corruption rampant. Arms manufacturers cheated the government, inflated prices, delivered poor quality weapons, even pocketed state funds. The government, fearing strikes, never dared punish them. As a result, Italian weapons were both expensive and terrible. The L3 tankette, Italy's most common armored vehicle, had armor so thin that even machine gun fire could penetrate it. The M13 medium tank had weak armor, unreliable engines, and no radios. When hit, its low-quality rivets would burst inward, spraying the crew with lethal shrapnel. Italian aircraft were no better. While Germany built 60.000 planes and the US 157.000, Italy produced only 10.000. One of its most advanced fighters, the Re.2005 Sagittario, was built in a mere 48 units. And after pouring resources into the Spanish Civil War, Italy entered World War II with depleted stockpiles. Organization was also a disaster. Unlike Hitler or Stalin, Mussolini did not hold absolute power. He still had to contend with the king and senior generals. They formed rival factions, sabotaged one another, and delayed operations to protect their influence. The Air Force refused to support the army to avoid appearing subordinate. The Navy did not coordinate with ground forces. Thus, Italy's three military branches acted separately, while modern warfare required tight cooperation between land, sea, and air. Italy's grand strategy was equally flawed. It fought everywhere at once: Greece, North Africa, East Africa, and even the Soviet front. With limited resources, such dispersion guaranteed failure. In Libya, an Italian general commanded 150,000 troops against 36,000 British soldiers. Instead of concentrating his strength, he scattered his forces across sand fortresses, each isolated and easily surrounded. One by one, they were destroyed, until his entire army vanished. These failures stemmed not only from inexperience but from outdated thinking. Commanders who imagined they were fighting a 19th-century war while 20th-century mechanized warfare had left them far behind. Yet the Italian soldier was not a coward. In North Africa, under Rommel, they fought bravely, often desperately, with inferior weapons. Rommel himself wrote, "The Italians fight well when they have confidence in their commander." This reveals that Italy's problem was not its soldiers, but its leaders, men who dreamed of reviving Rome's empire without the strength, organization, or intellect to achieve it. When Rome was bombed by American aircraft in 1943, when Mussolini was arrested, and when German troops retreated through burning northern villages, the Italians understood that the dream of Mare Nostrum, RC, had been an illusion. Mussolini's empire lasted only 8 years, built on pride and fantasy, not real power. April 28, 1945. The war was nearing its end. Mussolini, exhausted and desperate, tried to flee to Switzerland with his mistress, but their convoy was captured by partisans near Lake Como. The next day, he was executed. His body was hung upside down in a Milan square, the very place where he once proclaimed Italy's glory. A dark chapter closed. Italy surrendered, then split in two, and had to rebuild amid ruins and humiliation. More than 80 years have passed since Mussolini stood on the balcony of the Quirinale, shouting about a new empire. Today, history echoes only one question: was that dream worth the millions who died, the nation torn apart, and the shame cast upon Italy by a dictator's delusions? The answer lies in the silence of cemeteries in North Africa, in the frozen wastes of Stalingrad, in the ruins of Rome. That is where the Roman dream collapsed, not from an external enemy, but from arrogance and blindness within. The drone of aircraft fades. The wind whispers through the ruins of an old Italian square. The narrator's voice softens. Mussolini's empire existed only in speeches, posters, and the illusion that power could be conjured by words. But war, history has proven, obeys only one law: there is no place for arrogance, only for strength, organization, and truth. And this is the story of Italy in the Second World War.